There's something that we need to remember that we lost, that we need to take back. That curiosity, that excitement, it needs to come back. So anytime you're thinking, I can't, remember your 4-year-old self getting on a bicycle. You figured it out. You need to give yourself a little bit more credit than I can't. Hello, and welcome to the Radd Journey podcast, brought to you by Radd Habits, better habits for better living. And if you want to check the link in the description, there's a regular newsletter to join the self-improvement community. So this show, at its core, is about self-improvement. My self-improvement as well as your self-improvement. And the self-improvement journey is personal and unique to the individual. Therefore, it can get lonely. Now, I'm not a guru or an expert. I'm just a guy trying to work on himself and find community. So if you'd like to join me on this Radd Journey, I don't know. Does that sound cheesy? It's the first episode. But join me and feel free to input your feedback because it would be great to get to know you. Nice to meet you. My name's Levi, and I'm just getting to know this camera. I'll get better, I promise. But I'm a recovered alcoholic in his mid-40s, and I found Jesus. And I always like to put God first, so I'm just going to read a scripture real quick, and then we'll get into it. This one is, I want to do one every episode. So the one I picked today was Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take. That is one of my favorites. It's such a gem. Anyway, let's get on to the show. Okay, so on this episode, I want to talk about your inner voice and how it can be helpful yet harmful. So I wrote down 4 negative things that we usually tell ourselves that build roadblocks in our progress. So I'll start with one of the most common ones, which is, why didn't I start earlier? This one's super common, but the truth is that the past can't be changed and there's no better time to start than now. I don't know if you ever heard that ancient Chinese proverb that goes, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. But the second best time to plant a tree is right now. It's like if you're planning on maybe exercising and you're putting it off until Monday, just drop and do a few push-ups. See how you feel. There's a really cool strategy in the book Atomic Habits where James Clear points out the 2-minute rule, where, for example, if you want to go jogging, you take 2 minutes to put on a jogging shoe, and that will get your momentum going. So tip number 1, seize the moment. Anytime you're thinking, I should have started earlier, just tell yourself, seize the moment. Moving on. The next one is, what's the point in making an effort? Tomorrow isn't guaranteed. And that's a terrible mindset to get stuck into. Instead, your mindset should be treat each day as if it's your last. I wrote down like a really cool quote from Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. He's the former Roman emperor, big in the Stoicism, but this is out of his journal. He wrote, it's not death that a man should fear, but rather he should fear never beginning to live. And that one hits. That one's pretty good. So back to the original, seize the moment. Also, there is a huge point in making the effort, because what are you going to tell your 4-year-old self about the rest of your life? Think about it. Is your 4-year-old self going to accept the excuse that you were worried about what was going to happen tomorrow? I don't know. Something to think about. Speaking of 4-year-olds, moving on to the next one, remember when you were 4 and your excuse was, it's too hard, I can't. Man, we still tell ourselves that even though we're adults, even though we've been through so many different challenges. Like even when you were young and you rode a bicycle and you were like, it was scary, it was hard, but you got up, you got on the bicycle, you beat yourself up, you failed. And despite all those things, you were excited to get back on that bicycle and mess up some more. It's crazy just to remember how excited we were when we were kids to fail. There's something that we need to remember that we lost, that we need to take back. That curiosity, that excitement, it needs to come back. So anytime you're thinking, I can't, remember your 4-year-old self getting on a bicycle. You figured it out. You need to give yourself a little bit more credit than I can't. Okay, so moving on to the next one. And this is another one that we like to tell ourselves. I have to start from the bottom while others were born into wealth. And you know how they say comparison is the thief of joy? I believe it's also the thief of success. Comparing yourself to somebody else's journeys and tribulations and their advantages, it's just a waste of time. Have you ever heard of the iceberg illusion? Where there's like something up on top, it's what you see. You see like this top part, but at the bottom of the iceberg is like a whole bunch of like stuff. That's kind of like how success works, because you have all this stuff at the bottom that nobody sees. Not even you see it when you see somebody else who's successful. You don't know what they went through, whether they were wealthy, whatever. You don't know what they went through. So you can't compare yourself to that because you're not that. Your story, your trials, your limitations are subject to you. And sure, people have unfair advantages. They're very common. Some people are wealthy. There are people who are taller than other people. There's beauty. These are all unfair advantages that people use as leverage. And if people are wealthy, of course they're going to use it as leverage. And that's smart of them to do that. So I guarantee that you actually have an unfair advantage, because I mean, if you really thought about it, we all have something to bring to the table, and you, yes, you have an unfair advantage. And it's kind of funny because unfair advantages can be leveraged in so many different ways. Like if you're beautiful, you can use that as your unfair advantage, right? But if you're extremely ugly, the opposite of that, you could use that as your unfair advantage. So try and think about where your strengths are and prop that up and use it. We all have something that we could bring to the table. Know what I mean? So just to recap, number 1, seize the moment anytime you're feeling like it's too late. Number 2, treat each day like it's your last. Number 3, embrace hardships. Get excited about failure. And number 4, avoid comparison. And I set up some homework if you're down. You don't have to. But I have 3 things that I think would be really good to write down just to get you out of the excuse space or the mental blockage. So you just write down like 5 things. I think 5 is a good number. 5 things that you desire most. Like, what's your ultimate goal in life? What are you looking for? Like, what are you trying to achieve? Who's the person that you want to be? After that, write down 5 things that you're scared of, things that you're afraid of being. Like, not things that you're afraid of for the next level, but what you're afraid of being stuck in, like being stuck at a job, working for somebody you don't respect, things like that. Just like the thing that's behind you that you're just barely avoiding that you could just get away from by succeeding. And in between that, write down the roadblocks and the barriers that are blocking you from getting from the things you're afraid of to your success. And when you compare those things, you'll be able to pinpoint what's actually holding you back in your mind. And I feel like that'll help you with your self-talk and coaching yourself. And if you've made it this far, thank you. I really appreciate it. Consider joining the community and signing up for the newsletter. The link's down below in the description. That way you don't miss out on any future events or episodes. So until next time, keep God first, love you, and have a rad day.